Ladies and gentlemen, just a reminder, the video camera stage right over here by the drapes. We'd like to encourage anybody, if you'd like to make any comments for the video that'll go to the family and friends, we'd appreciate it. At any chance you get later on to go ahead and stop by the camera, and you can make those comments right there with the videographer. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome. I see a lot of nice Hawaiian shirts out there. I think it's a fine tribute to John. Many tears have been shed this past week and after the initial shock wore off, but today we're not here to be sad. Today we're here to celebrate the life of John Kane, a man who clearly touched many lives on many levels, a man who somehow made everybody feel like they were his best friend. If you knew John at all, you know that he would not want today to be a downer by any stretch. So we're here to celebrate and reminisce. John's Bay Area memorial was yesterday morning in San Ramon, and it was a very nice service. Many chefs who have worked with or for John were there wearing their whites, which was a nice tribute. Stories were shared by some of John's sisters and other family members. There were some tears, but overall everybody did very well. And we were reminded what John was really all about, living life to its fullest and be surrounded by friends and family. Especially poignant were the letters read for each of John's 4 sons. They were sweet, funny, of course. They were John's sons. And after all, they were very touching. It was especially beautiful how John's ex-wife, Myrna, the boy's mom, and her sons included Maria and the entire family yesterday. It was very nice. If everyone spoke up here today about what John meant to them, or even told one funny John story, we'd be going into next week. So we have a few speakers today, and then we encourage everyone to post their memories and photos on, we have a Facebook page called Remembering John Kane. It's in the programs, so we encourage everybody to do that, as well as the video setup over there that you probably heard about. Another thing that John would want me to say is that downstairs the bar is open, just as he would want. And then after everything is done, there will be refreshments. They're behind the curtain, so please feel free to stay and reminisce with everybody.
Good morning. You can respond back, it's okay. It is a good morning, you know why? When we lose someone, in remembering them, we keep them. We keep their memories alive. We keep those pieces of them that touched us so deeply that we've incorporated in our own lives, and they live on. And so when we gather like this together, even though it is sad, it is a loss, it's deeply felt, it hurts. It takes us back. It still is a good morning. So good morning. Thank you. I want to touch on just briefly the whole idea of remembering John, in particular with the 2 things that are available. There are some cards in the back if you didn't see them. I'm assuming they're still there, but the video as well. Let me tell you why they're important. Even as I sit here and watch pictures and listen to the response to the different pictures and hear the comments, I learn more about John. And my relationship with him was like this. As a community member, I knew of him, his generosity, his zest for life. So it's a little bit like this. We all have relationships with people, and they comprise a different piece of the mosaic. right? Mosaic is a painting put together or a picture put together with lots of different pictures, different colors, just so to give us a bigger picture and allow us to see something that maybe we wouldn't have seen before. And so as a gift to John's family, if you share your memories, whether it's a video or Facebook or writing on these cards, those things are truly a gift because they paint the picture much more clearly than maybe we know. Maria, I'm wondering if I might ask you to stand up and turn around and look at all these friends. And I want you to take a good long look. And the reason I want you to do that is because these are the people that are here with you during this time. And you're welcome to sit back down. The guests, you can. Rarely do we, at major events and gatherings and rituals like weddings and baptism and burials and memorials, do we take a picture and take a look at what's going around. But these are the people that are here to support you, and I hope today that you feel loved by that. Shakespeare, in his second sonnet, talks about life. He talks about it in terms of the lusty, youthful days when we're young and life is just ours to take. But as we get older, he says to his friend, "What shall make your excuse when you get old?" You all make John's excuse today. Your life experience with him, the memories that you have of him. For it is in the living of life that we make our excuse one to another. The reason for being, the reason for living. In a poem by Donna Markova, she writes this: "I will not die an unlived life. I will not live in fear of falling or catching fire. I choose to inhabit my days, to allow my living to open me, to make me less afraid, more accessible, to loosen my heart until it becomes a wing, a torch, a promise. I choose to risk my significance, to live so that which came to me as seed goes to the next as a blossom, and that which came to me as blossom goes on as fruit." So collectively, as we sit here today and we remember John and we hear of all the different things and what he liked and how he impacted others, let us take that as seed in our lives and allow it to go on as blossom and allow his memory to live on. And now, Maria, your family, may God bless you richly. May God grant you remembrance often of the special things that John brought to your life. May peace be ever present in your soul as you navigate through the coming season of your life. May grace be a dear friend, comforting your memories. May hope be a beacon, continually calling you through this time. May love be a shelter, keeping you safe in your vulnerability and woundedness. And may the memory of John become a shadow on your soul, ever present and always witnessing to the legacy that he has left with you and in you.
Good morning. Is it, if it's still morning, is it? Good morning, and my name is Dennis Richmond, and it's my honor to welcome you to the celebration of one of the dearest friends I have, on the planet. Writing the eulogy for John Kane was the most difficult thing that I've ever done. The years of reporting on tragic stories didn't prepare me for this. There have been many sad stories that I've had to report on the air. There was one that was particularly tragic where a mudslide yanked a little girl out of the arms of her father. But that doesn't compare to the tragic loss of John Kane. John was one of the greatest men I ever met. He made you welcome in his restaurant with his white smock and his flip-flops. I don't think I've ever seen John in anything but flip-flops, except when we were on the golf course, and he couldn't play in those. John had a penchant for making everybody welcome in his restaurant. You would see him back behind cooking, running back and forth, flame shooting up and everything, and you just as easily see him sitting out in the restaurant with people, sitting at the bar, talking with people. He was the friendliest, most gregarious chef that I have ever met, the most gregarious person that I have ever met. I don't know of anyone who has anything derogatory to say about John. John was a pillar of the community. He will be sorely missed by the Grass Valley Downtown Association. He welcomed the Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Coalition into his restaurant. He even had a dinner for them, a reception for them in his restaurant. He just had the penny pitch a little while ago. He did that every year. I showed up for the penny pitch late, and John said, "Whose team are you on?" I said, "I don't have a team." He said, "Yes, you do. You're on my team." And I lost the first round to Moses. So I wasn't much help for his penny pitch. Now, you all know that John was the best at what he did as an executive chef. He first for Original Joe's in San Francisco. He was the chef to the stars to Bill Cosby, Sammy Davis Jr., Jay Leno. And he was the chef to the ordinary people. That's probably one of his greatest accomplishments. Everybody loved John Kane. Matter of fact, when he headed the Chefs Association of the Pacific Coast, that's how he met Maria Ramos. And Maria has graciously consented to come up and share some of those memories with us in just a few moments. And we're going to love her for doing it. I know she's going to be able to come up here and talk to me with a big smile on her face, right? Yep. John loved to travel. Deborah and I, my wife Deborah, she and I were fortunate to travel extensively with John and Maria. In fact, we just came back from Maui. He seemed to be able to put the restaurant business aside when he traveled, at least for a little while. Every now and then he'd have to get on his cell phone and call Amy or Jamie or Dino or somebody. But for most of the time, he was able to put that aside and just have a great time. Let me give an example of one place. We went to, in Cancun, a place called Playa del Carmen. And we went to a bar there called the Swinging Bar. Now, it's not what you think. It's not what you think. Instead of bar stools, they had actual swings hanging from the ceiling next to the bar. That's the Swinging Bar. So, of course, we had a great time there. And what they had on the walls there were dollar bills pasted all over the walls, all over the ceilings, all over the posts, everything. The bar top, everything. And so we asked the bartender, I said, how do we get one of these dollar bills with our name on it? He said, you see that stripper pole? And we said, yeah. And he said, get on the stripper pole and I'll put a dollar bill up for you. And of course Deborah got on it. And they looked at me. I said, no, it ain't going to happen. And then John got on it. And you talking about a sight. We still have some pictures somewhere of John. I mean, he was actually on that stripper pole upside down, hanging onto it. So the proprietor gladly put John's name on a $1 bill, put it up on the wall. And then there was a funny thing that happened. When we left the swinging bar, we got back to the taxis. We had to go through it was very crowded. And we couldn't find John. And Maria said, okay, why don't you guys go? John will probably find his way back eventually. I said, no, I'm going to go back and look for him. So I went back to the stripper bar, and I asked the bartender, have you seen my buddy, the big guy? And the bartender looked, he said, there he is, right behind you. And John was coming out of the crowd. He had gone the wrong way to go back to the taxis. And both of us had maybe a little too much to drink. But we weren't driving, so. Anyhow, John and I were both a little bit unsteady. So we walked back to the taxis arm in arm. And I told John, I said, somebody's going to think we're gay. He said, I don't give a shit. And that was John. John loved the ocean. He could be seen many times just on a floaty, just hanging out, letting the waves bash him around. And then I can remember one time in particular, we were out on jet skis, on wave runners, and I wasn't paying attention. I was looking somewhere, and a wave hit the front of it, and the thing came up and hit me in the mouth. And I thought it had knocked my teeth out. Instead, what it did was my mouth was swollen, 3 times its normal size. And I went over, I took the skier over the jet ski over to John. I said, John, am I bleeding? And he looked at me and busted out laughing. I said, what? He said, woo, woo, woo. He said, you remember that In Living Color character, Wanda, that Jamie Foxx played? And for about the next 2 days, John would look at me and laugh and go, woo, woo, woo. He called my wife, he called my wife his sister, and he called me a brother from another mother. And we all loved John. John was just, he was in our heart to stay. In your program, there's a listing of all the accomplishments that John made. I'm going to read them to you just to be sure, in case you haven't gotten there yet. There are some things in here that I wasn't aware of. John was truly an amazing person. He was the executive chef of the University Club of San Francisco. He was only the 5th chef to hold that title in the 116-year history of that association, which is a very exclusive association. John served 2 years as president of the Chefs Association of the Pacific Coast. He was seated as chairman of the board. He was the Culinary Federation's National Chef of the Year. The President Leonard, also awarded Chef John with the coveted Presidential Medallion. He was awarded the San Francisco 2002 CAPC Chef of the Year Award. Chef John also taught and trained cooks at Cecil Williams Glide Memorial Outreach Program. You all know about Glide. We did stories about Glide every year on Thanksgiving and Christmas and other times when people would come in and volunteer to cook dozens of turkeys. John Kane was the person who taught them how to cook those turkeys. John hired himself out. He allowed himself to be auctioned off. He raised more than $124,000 for local charities in San Francisco by auctioning himself off. And he was also a culinary ambassador to the council in Spain. I want to now, as I promised, ask Maria to please join me up here. Are you ready, Maria? Maria Ramos, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, darling. Is your mic working? Is your mic working?
I think so. Okay.
No. This was your idea. You wanted to come up here so you could talk a little bit about how you and John met. I think it's a very interesting story about how you had to hire a chaperone initially when John came up to your house because you didn't want him to get the wrong idea, right? Tell us about that.
I met John in Napa. Cisco had an appreciation dinner for all their customers, and so they took us all around Napa, and then John was with his good friend Dieter, and he's a master chef. So Dieter sat next to me, and John sat somewhere else, and then we talked about food, and I go, this man has all the knowledge that I would like to do, because this is what I want to do. I want to upgrade my restaurant. I want to think about, I just love food, and I want to know more about it. And so I saw John at another food show later, where demonstrating different food, and I go, John, can you and Dieter, you guys want to come to Grass Valley? We have a great town. You will really love it. And so he said, okay, I'll talk to Dieter about it, And then another food show came by, and we never talked to Dieter. And I go, John, can you? I'm serious. Come down to my house. Like, it's so beautiful right now. It's a great town. There's lakes. And he goes, okay, I'll ask Dieter if he wants to come, and we'll let you know for sure. And so after I invited him, I said, I asked our salesperson, I just invited that man, and I don't even know if he's married. Could you ask him how old he is, and how many kids he has, and is he really married? Because his wife might get mad at me. And so the salesperson asked him, and he comes. So John's asking him, is she married? And he says, no, she's just asking. And so I said, well, invite him and Dieter together to come down. And he said he would. So I gave him my number. He called up, and he says, yeah, I think on that date that I told you, which was like 3 weeks ago, he goes, I think, we could come around that time. Yeah, I talked to Dieter already. He says, yeah, we're going to go down there. I go, oh, I'm so excited. You're going to love this town. And so a week went by, and he would be calling me, and letting me know about all the work schedule he had. And he for sure had that time off. But he goes, Maria, my friend Dieter can't come. I go, but I could come. And I go, oh, I don't know this man. I go, so I asked Lily Walker. I go, Lily, can you come over to my house and stay? Because I'm invited a chef, and I think he's really knowledgeable, and he thinks about my same way of thinking about food. Do you want to hang out with us and spend the night? And because he's going to spend the night, and I don't want him to think I'm a frisky girl, and I don't want to fight with this guy. And so she stayed, and we've got to really kind of interrogate him and find out more about him, and we really liked John. He was really special. He was like, he had so much information. I was so lucky to meet somebody like that.
At what point did you feel you were having more than just chef feelings about John Kane?
Well, he kept coming every weekend. And finally, I didn't invite my friend Lily anymore. I felt.
So, was that a romance that was blossoming then, including, because he was still helping you out with your restaurant?
Yeah.
But was he helping you out with your heart, too?
Oh, yeah, he was. He was so giving. He would, bring gifts, and he would want to cook, and I go, oh man, that's good. Someone's cooking for me. And then he was good to my kids, and he loved the town. And he said, you know what? I want to move down here. And I go, well, if you move down here, you're not going to make any kind of money like you're making in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And then he goes, well, I'm going to look around and see what's available down here. And so he went to all the bars, talking to people about which building would be best for Grass Valley. And then he said, people keep telling me that one brick building's a good place for a restaurant. Restaurants go in, restaurant goes out. He goes, I think that's a pretty good place. And I go, yeah, I think that's a good one too. We could have a patio and stuff like that. And you'll have your own place, and you'll just, we'll be working together and as a goal to getting that changing it over to a restaurant.
That eventually became that brick restaurant eventually became Kane's.
Yes.
And you both worked on it, right?
Yeah, I was the general contractor, and he was like I did minor blueprint on his kitchen, and back then we tried to kind of was a little bit more able to do your own stuff and then present it to the building department, and kind of see if we were just doing a little minor upgrade, not a whole lot, and then
John did a lot for Grass Valley, especially the Main Street area, as he became more accustomed to it, didn't he?
Yes, he always wanted that patio to make it look better than it did, and he also got to meet a lot of the local people that owned businesses, and he got to meet so many people in our Grass Valley were so attracted to John.
No, we are Grass Valley, right? We know what was attractive to John, right?
Yes.
Okay, here's a pointed question. When did you know you were in love with John Kane?
Well, I think I don't know, when I first saw him, my heart went and I kept saying, oh, I hope he likes me. I hope he likes me. So that was one thing, and then I just could rely on him. He took care of me like I needed to be taken care of with all sorts of things. He was so different.
This is a true Grass Valley love story. Maria, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
I want to also acknowledge John's boys sitting in the front row over here. Michael, Anthony, Jack, and Nicholas. Thank you, guys. And we know John loved you. Thank you, Mary.
Hi, my name is Jamie Marquetti. I'm manager at Kane's along with Amy Brown, who's sitting in the audience here today. This is a lot more difficult than I thought it would be, but I know that John is standing right beside me, so I'm going to be really strong, okay? The Lord has really helped me to understand why he wanted to take one of God's angels back, because he was just like an angel. So I'm going to read a Bible quote that means a lot to me. For if we live to the Lord, and if we die to the Lord. So then we live, or whether we die, we are the Lord's. Romans 14:8. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that if there was enough time here today, that anyone who has ever worked for or with John would be standing up here to honor his memory. John was a man who touched so many lives by being a good friend, a father figure, mentor, and an all-around great guy, and he even had enough time to become a great chef. I had the pleasure of meeting John 3 years ago when Maria sent me to Kane's when I asked her and Gina for a job. He was at the chef's counter where he always ate his meal. I walked right up to him, super intimidated, and asked him for a job. But within seconds, because he was John Kane, I felt at ease with his welcoming personality. Needless to say, he gave me a job and an opportunity, just like John, to do that. It did not take long to see why so many people admired John. He was such a hard worker. He was always at the restaurant from early in the morning and many times did not leave till way after dark. I remember seeing all the other employees and all the customers that would come in and interact with John, and I thought, I want that. So he had a magnetism about him that was contagious, so I would follow him around literally like a puppy dog, trying to make him laugh, trying to get him to like me, and trying to become that person that he was, or try to have that relationship that he had with all these other people. The environment that John created for his employees was something that can't be mimicked. It never felt like a job. It was a second home for many of us, and the only home for a few of us. There were no misfits at Kane's. Once you were part of John's family, he was there to support you. If you came to work upset about something, John could always make you feel better by cracking a joke, giving you a pep talk, telling a funny story, or giving you a hug just like a father would. So I'm going to tell you a little personal story. I'm a single mom. I try to work as hard as I can, and this one time I did not have enough money for my rent, and I was like, what am I going to do? Rent's due tomorrow. I came to work super upset, and John's like, why are you crying? What's going on? And I was like, I don't have enough money for my rent. He's like, well, how much do you need, honey? Because he always called me honey. And I was like, I need $200. And he, without a flinch of an eye, didn't lecture me. You're 36 years old. You should be responsible. You should have a savings account. And pulled out his wad of cash that he always had in his pocket and handed me $200, never asking me when I was going to pay him back. I mean, that's just something that I'll never forget. His generosity and pay-it-forward attitude was only part of what I admire most about him. He never hesitated to help those in need and always found a way to give back to the community. I was so impressed by his generosity to help a fellow coworker at Maria's who had a life-threatening disease through fundraising, selling T-shirts, hats, and cookies. I remember when Humpty Dumpty's burned down, John and I discussed how sad it must be and how hard it must be for all those involved. I asked him if we could do a fundraiser to help those who lost their livelihood, and without a second thought, he said yes. That was who John was, a man who used his success to help others. I have learned so much from John, as I'm sure so many of you here have. He always pushed those he loved so hard because he cared so much and saw potential in each and every one of his employees. I know that there is much sadness here today, more than I can bear at times, but I am grateful for the time I got to spend with him, for the family he created at Kane's, and for all the confidence and strength he is giving me to continue to keep his memory alive at the restaurant. I would like to thank Maria for sharing John with us, for being supportive of the things he adored so much, being a chef, and by helping him create a restaurant that surpassed all of his expectations. And one more thing, go Giants. Sorry.
Hi, everybody. You guys going to help me through this next 15 minutes? Dennis is such a great and professional speaker and a true and loyal friend. Thank you. John was a very special friend to me. When his restaurant first opened, there were some graffiti that kept appearing on the back wall behind the toilet in the men's room. Let's just get down to it, shall we? And it said, for a good time call, and it was my phone number. with a little drawing of an eye that was blinking. The next time I would go in the bar, John would wait for the right moment for it to be full, and he'd walk to the other end of the bar. And he would shout out, "Hey, Johnny, had any interesting dates lately?" I love John Kane. As is typical with the Irish, we all have nicknames for each other. John came up with most of them. Yeah, there's JoJo. There's 007, James Bond. There's Skipper. I used to weigh about 40 pounds more, and I was a little self-conscious about it. And John gave me my name, and it was Johnny Bag of Donuts. I love John Kane. In his radio commercials on KNCO, he adopted many different characters over the years. But his first one, and probably his most beloved, was that of the persona of Julia Child. And he would be there, "Hello," and doing his Julia. And in several commercials advertising Ladies' Night, he would go, "And ladies, don't forget that cute little Johnny Coulter will be there again." On and on to the entire broadcast area of Greater Nevada County. I love Johnny Kane. On every Monday night football game for 5 years, which would be about 80 times, John would go behind the bar and individually make up a special dinner and serve it to every guy that came for $5. These were great dinners. He gave us each menus of what he was going to be serving and who was playing that night. And at the bottom of every menu for 80 nights was a paragraph about me. As a kind of motivational quote of the week. Kind of like, if you think your week is bad. Then he would say something about my height, my hair or lack thereof, anything else he could find humor in. I love Johnny Kane. And now I've been asked by the family to add a little levity, because that's the way Johnny would run it if he was here, and say a few words about John, the real John. The John with that smile that we will never forget. The smile that made you feel welcome. The John that, if he were here right now, would say something totally inappropriate to break this tension and make us all laugh. My first thought was to go online and to Google and do Google Irish /farewell/best friend. But then I thought, you know what, John deserves so much more, so much something better than some contrived statement on Google. So I signed up for Google Plus. Oh, come on. John would have loved that joke. We all miss John. I'd like to take some time. You heard that yesterday in San Ramon, California, I was lucky enough to be there. And one of the family got up and read, and bear with me while I do this. I'm going to repeat what he said up there. Yeah, I used to be a sound man. I want to repeat what he said up there for the four boys. Would the four boys please stand up? Face the audience. This is Michael, Anthony, Jack, and Nicholas. By the way, all four of these boys are Eagle Scouts. I'm going to read just a very short passage that each of them wrote for today. First, Michael. Michael says, speaking of John, he was my best friend and I always knew I could count on him to laugh with me when I was happy or listen to me when I was sad. Some of my favorite memories of him are being a little boy and following him around work, watching how he would interact with everyone who just seemed to love him. It was obvious that he loved to make people happy. He oozed with charisma and charm, and he was always genuine. He loved his family, food, music, sports, laughing, and making others laugh. His and my favorite holiday had always been Thanksgiving because it was his day to do everything all at once. He was so smart and talented. He was my Superman, and all my life I wanted to be just like him. It felt so good to hear him brag about us because I knew my brothers and I were always doing the same. I always knew that he and I had a lot in common. Every day I would hear more examples of how true that really is. I know that he is in me, I am in him, and that's something I will never forget. Anthony. I got this right? It's Michael, Anthony, in the right order. Michael, Anthony, Nicholas, you're the youngest, right? All right. Anthony. Over the past few days, I had a chance to replay a voicemail my dad left on the phone. He had called to congratulate me on my graduation from college. He told me how proud he was of me. This message is special to me because I have had the chance to hear my father one more time. The message, like all the voicemails he left, started off with some corny Star Wars impression. Anthony, this is your father. In his best Darth Vader voice. That was my dad. Hanging out and shooting the breeze was my favorite thing to do with Dad. My dad had a story for everything. He either knew someone, read about it, or had done it himself. There was never a moment of silence. He had the perfect combination of knowledge, charm, and humor. And if that combination failed him, there was always a good joke. He always left me with something to reflect on. His third son, Jack. My favorite times with Dad were going to the San Francisco 49er games. I know what you're thinking, sports. But the reason why I love this was because there were only 2 tickets. One for him and one for me. It was my special day to spend with him and nobody else. It didn't matter that I had to get up early in the morning because I was so excited I could barely sleep. My dad loved the city, not just for the tour sites, but everything about San Francisco. La Taqueria on 24th and Mission, the University Club, sailing the bay. He taught me to love it too. We loved going to the river or spending time with him in Grass Valley. The place didn't really matter. All that matters and what was important to me was spending time with him. If I could tell my dad one last thing, I would want him to know that I would go to the end of the world to spend one more minute with him. And finally, his fourth son, Nicholas. The last time I saw my dad was on Father's Day. I walked through Kane's and found him surrounded by people. Nothing new, since he was always the life of the party, even when there wasn't a party. As soon as he saw me, I could tell I was the most important person in the room. Dad wasn't concerned about all the awards he had won or the gifts he received. People were what really mattered to him. I came to realize that even though holidays were special, it was the everyday things that were important to him. I looked so much like my father, and some will tell you I even roll my eyes like him. But more than his looks, I hope I can make long-lasting friendships like my dad did, and have my name remembered in the same way. I know I mattered to him. I hope he knows how much he mattered to me. When John met Maria and expressed his yearning to come to Grass Valley, as you've already heard, Maria warned him that his income coming here would not be anything compared to what he could make in the city, in San Francisco. Well, John laid caution to the wind and followed his heart and his love, Maria, and to all of our benefit, moved to our town and enriched all of our lives. I'd like to leave you with an Irish saying that I think is appropriate for times like these. Don't be dismayed at goodbyes. A farewell is necessary before you can meet again. And meeting again after moments or lifetime is certain for those who are friends. For those of you who have never been to an Irish wake, you're in luck. For right here, there's a guy named Johnny. With a pub down the street called Kane's. And at 2 o'clock this very day, all of us that are Irish and all of us who want to be Irish are going to celebrate the life of a truly great man. God bless Johnny Kane. Just don't look back at it.
Good afternoon. I'm up here to really thank everyone for supporting our family and thanking for everything that the community has given us over this last week. It's just been unimaginable, the strong support. So thank you. One thing I wanted to share about John is I'll never forget the first day I met him. I think I was at that food show with you, Mom. And my mom said to me, "What do you think about that guy?" I'm like, "Which guy are you talking about?" And she pointed over to John, who was cooking. If you've ever been at a food show, they bring like some of the top chefs and they cook behind to demonstrate the food that they're serving. And my mom goes, "That guy?" I'm like, "The one cutting the sausage and the steak?" And she said, "Yeah." I'm like, "Really? That's your type?" And of course, as a daughter, you size every person up that your mom's about to date. So I judged him, of course, and looked at him, and she says, "Well, he's going to be coming over to the house." I'm like, "At the one that we're living at, the other house?" And she said, "Yeah, but don't worry, I have a chaperone." And I'll never forget just John being so heartfelt and so warm and gentle, just so gentle for the kind of man that he was. And so I started asking him questions because, of course, I want to know everything about this man. I'm not controlling or anything. But I found out he had 4 boys. I was like, "Really? 4 boys?" And I'm thinking, wow, I've never met a man who had 4 boys, and so when I met the boys for the very first time, who were referred to as Kane Nation, we really, I really love you guys. And, it's been such an honor for our family to know your father. And I just love knowing that a part of you lives on in him. And he will know in the community. I'm so clear at the attendance that John Kane will never be forgotten. And just really on behalf of my family, thank you for your support, your love, and your generosity. And we love you. Thank you.
Profits that John Kane sponsored in the community is Music in the Mountains, and Kane's became the official restaurant party place for our 90 Boys Chorus. On many Wednesday evenings, you'll see a dozen of us or so tumble in after rehearsal to wet our whistles, to wait till they kick us out when they're closing. Anyway, we wanted to share some music for John.
In my heart's sequestered chambers lie truth stripped of all its gloss. Words alone are vain and vacant, and my heart is mute.
In response to aching silence, memory summons half-heard voices,
and my soul finds primal eloquence and wraps me in song, wraps me in song. If you would comfort me, sing me a lullaby. If you would win my heart, sing me a love song. If you would warn me and bring me to God, sing me a requiem, sing me to heaven.
touch in me all love and passion, pain and pleasure.
Touch in me, grief and comfort, love and passion, pain and pleasure. Sing me a lullaby, a love song, a requiem. Love me, comfort me, bring me to God. Sing me a love song, sing me to
Hi, Maria. I just wanted to give you a little lovin' here, a lot of lovin'. And you know I'm going to be there for you every step of the way. John was an amazing man. And all of our vacations and special times together, we're still deciding, Dennis and I decided that we're just bringing you along on the vacations. We don't have to be a foursome. We could be a threesome. Okay? You're going everywhere we go. And that's final. My thoughts with John are go so deep. The little things he did for me, just the gluten-free stuff. Sorry. I'm trying to hold it together. He will be greatly missed, and you have all of our support and all of our love, all of you. All right? Take care.
Hello, my name is Jim Hensey. I'm with Sierra Meat and Seafood, and I've known John for about 20 years. He was our corporate chef. This Flocchini family sends our condolences to Hensey family. We all love John so much. He's going to be missed. He was bigger than life. But I have so many fond memories and so many stories I could tell. Way too long for this. Main thing I wanted to pass on our sincere condolences. And John is loved and will be remembered always. Thank you.
Sal Campagna here, remembering my dear friend, John Kane. I met John when he was the executive chef at the University Club in San Francisco, and when he became president of the Chefs Association, we became very close. His friendship was very easy to make. Anybody that ever knows John knows that you would have to be a egocentric introvert not to be able to be friends with John. And we had a lot of dinners there with the Chefs Association. And then when John got the highest honor that they offer is that the Antonin Carré Medal, we were at a dinner in San Jose, and that was the first time that I met this lovely lady he brought. Was the first woman I'd ever seen him with, Maria, a beautiful, charming lady that was very friendly, and it was just like natural that they were meant for each other. Then John soon decided to leave the University Club for a business venture in Grass Valley. So he invited me up here to take a look at the place, and being that I had spent 30 or 40 years in the restaurant business, I came up to look a place over, and we came in the back door. First thing I noticed that, I thought, gee me, there's not very much parking here. But silly me, that was an obvious thing that as soon as John got into business there, the local people would certainly find a way to park and know how to get there. And then, of course, Maria and John were visionaries, and they have the two finest restaurants in the whole Nevada County, as far as I'm concerned. And then we're talking about naming the restaurant, and having made a couple of mistakes in restaurants, I suggested to him Kane's, natural, simple, and rest is pretty much history. And the last email I got from him, I invited him to play in the golf tournament that he had played in before. We played lots of golf together. And incidentally, one time we were playing somewhere it was so hot, John hydrated by drinking a couple of six-packs of Heinekens. And on the backside, the cart girl ran out of Heineken, so we had to settle for a couple of cans of something else. But and he still was able to hit the ball long and straight. So I will never forget our friendship. His talent as a chef was unsurpassed. I finally got to meet his sons, Anthony, Michael, Jack, and Nicholas, and their mother, who did a wonderful job raising his four beautiful sons. We're going to miss him a lot. Love the guy. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dan Quinn, John's brother, and I go back pretty far with John. When John met Candy, and I met Candy and her sisters, all they talked about was John. I finally met John, and he was probably the best young man I'd met in years. And when we went to the Russian River, I looked him up. We had fun, and to the detriment of my family, John and I would find places to go, beers to drink during the Giants games and the 49er games. He's a great guy, and I know why everybody in this town misses him, and I know why his kids and everyone else misses him. Tremendous guy. We loved him.
Hey, John, I'm going to miss you. Thank you everything you did for me. Darlene is going to miss you. We love you. And we started off with a business relationship, and we turned out to be great friends.
Oh, God. Maria, John, we love you so much. And John will always be in our heart. And I can't say any more. What was said today on the stage was so eloquent. And it's true. When John looked at someone, that was the only person in the room. He gave his heart to everyone.
We love you, John, and we'll see you at the big AT&T Park in the sky.
I'd just like to tell a story actually about John, because I know he obviously had a great sense of humor, and the one that I remember the most is I work at the union, and my name is Sean Riley, and we established a relationship over the last 4 years, and there happened to be one day he was walking along, I guess, down the road, and people kept saying, "Hey, Jeff," and so I get this call one day from John saying, "Sean, the union put my name in saying I was Jeff, and everyone's calling me Jeff Kane now." And what I loved about it, from that point forward, I was never Sean. I was always Steve. I was always Scott. I was always someone else. And so from that point forward, I just really appreciated it because it alleviated that tension, and he was just always really good to me. And then the one other story that I remember about him the most is one day I got a phone call, and it was from John, just out of the blue, to say how much he appreciated me and how much he thought my work and my time with him, how much it meant to him. And I work on compliments, and that really meant a lot to me. It showed you what kind of man John was. So thank you, and I'm going to miss him a lot.
Hi, I'm Howard Levine, and I have a couple of memories. One as the head of the Grass Valley Downtown Association, when John and Maria started to remodel that building and told me that this was going to be their choice of places to locate their new restaurant. It was great, but knowing how many restaurants had been a challenge in that area, it was hard to conceive of their idea. And as they progressed through the remodel, it was obvious that John was an artist in what he did, and Maria had great taste, and together they put together just a fabulous environment for people to come together, and John was really great in doing that. Prior to being with the Downtown Association, I used to be in the food service business, and I remember being at a food show and Maria telling me with a glint in her eye about meeting this guy and possibly putting together some kind of thing in the future. And, it was just very exciting to see her at the food show and to know that she had that connection. And Maria has been a great friend for a long time. And maybe I was a little jealous, but she's terrific. And they made a great couple. So thank you. Thank you. Love to you both.
Dear John Kane, your reverence for your roots was evident. We both shared the rolling fog that visited the Bay. I enjoyed our design adventures together, reminiscing about San Francisco and how it shaped our lives. The ethnic charm of North Beach, where gnocchi reigns supreme, and the hometown charm that remains with people as an aftertaste. Everyone will always remember the proprietors who genuinely enjoyed nourishing communication and the kindness that was shared with the road-weary pilgrims. Yes, John, you shared with the road-weary pilgrims. You rank at the top. Abbondanza, an Italian word that describes your generous spirit overflowing with plenty, to give and always available to share a few words of encouragement. John, you have created a great retreat, a shelter away from the tumultuous, mundane world. Thank you. We are always encouraged when we have the opportunity to come to your table, break bread, imbibe, and share stories with our newfound friends. Like a work of art, John, the author may have moved on, but the creations remain. Every time we partake of your recipes, we will share in memory of your goodwill. Our condolences to Maria, your loved ones, your family, and of course your extended family, Gary, Holly, and Aurora Graham. Thank you.
I'm Regis Stevens from KNCO, and my husband Michael, who is Chef Michael, he's the cook in our house. When we went out to dinner, he always wanted to go to Kane's. We like the fresh fish night. It was one of our favorites. And one night I was talking to John after he and Michael had finished talking about cooking. And he said, you really got to try the halibut cheeks. And I kind of laughed and I said, yeah, right. Halibut don't have butts. But he said, no, they're really good. I'm serious. Next time I get some, I'll cook them for you. And he got them. He did. And he was right. Love you, John. We're going to miss you.
Hi, John. This is Andy Garcia. I'm Dean's brother. You had a special impact in my life. We played golf together. We ate together. We drank together. And I truly loved you. You were my second home. And you always made me feel welcome. And you'll be sorely missed. And I really, really did love you, guy. Thank you.
John, we're so sad. We're going to miss you so much. Our community will never be the same without you. I know my Wednesday nights are going to be different, and we will just miss you, and we love you. And Maria, we're with you and the family, and if there's anything you ever need.
Yeah, I just want to echo that. I'm going to miss you terribly, John. Just simply good friend, good business partner. Take care.
Hello, everyone. I'm just glad that I moved back to Grass Valley after being gone for quite a few decades. Moved back to my hometown just in time to meet John. I can't even express the loss that I felt just knowing John since January. And we already had quite a few things we were working on together. Not only the grand opening of the patio, but Valentine's coming up. And so we spent a lot of hours together the last few weeks talking about our upcoming things we're working on together. I can't even imagine the loss that everyone else in the community has felt, because the personal loss for me with John was overwhelming, and that's just knowing him from January. I felt that one of my closest friends over that short period of time, and learned that quick how John grows on you and can become your best friend. So anyway, I'm sorry for the loss to the community and the personal loss, and especially the loss of all his family and friends. So I'm just grateful that I got to know John when I did.
Hi. This is Barbara Lynn, now Barbara Scheimoff, and this is my husband and Roger Scheimoff. And I have lived in Grass Valley for, well, I don't anymore, but for 22 years. I moved here in 1989, and I'd seen the brick building on Main Street go through several changes, and I kept walking by saying, you know, if someone knew what they were doing, I could make a really nice restaurant here. The first thing they would do is gut the place, rebuild it, and then make this patio something special. So I thought, okay, you'd have to put in water, like fountains, and some kind of cover from the sun, but let a little sun through, and some fans, ceiling fans, and some really nice seating, and have good food. And so when I saw that the place had been purchased, I thought to myself, well, I hope to heck they know what they're doing. And little did I know, that it was John. And I loved him so much. He hired me and my trio to sing jazz at Kane, and he loved our music, and we would go there and eat even when we couldn't afford it. We would splurge every dime to go there and enjoy the incredible food, because John was always there. And he would sit down with us sometimes and share a drink or buy us our favorite tequila. And I always went in the back door, and I would look into the little office. And if John was there, my heart would leap for joy, because he always had a smile and a nice thing to say. So thanks for being in our lives. And I'll let Roger talk. I never let him talk, but I'll let him talk.
Thank you. I believe we met John. He was barbecuing out in front in that patio. Barbecuing hamburgers the very first day, just before it became a grand opening. He was barbecuing and we introduced ourselves to him then. And then when I found out that he was a native San Franciscan as I, that intrigued me even more. Beyond that, he was a chef at my favorite restaurant in San Francisco, which is Joe's. And I used to watch the chefs behind the counter cook, which is how I learned to cook. I'm probably not nearly as good as John, but I did learn some great recipes. John, thank you for allowing us to be in your life. Thank you.
Okay, here we are. I don't really know what to say. It's a hard day, but I love John very much. I love your family very much. And I'm honored to be at Kane's. I'm honored to be there to take what I learned from John and move forward and help out however I can. I love that restaurant. I love everyone around the restaurant. I love the family. It's really hard for me. I'm not good with emotions. I'm not good at grieving, but I love you guys, and I have a lot of great memories, and I learned a lot, and I will take it with me forever. And whatever I can do, please let me know, okay? God bless.
All right, I just been trying to think of something to say to all of you, and just all I can say is I love John like a brother. He's your family to me. I'd have a drink in my hand. I never met anyone who I felt so instantly connected to as I did to John Kane, and I just love that about him. And I will never forget him. And whenever I see you guys, I just want you to know that my arms are wrapping around you, and I feel the loss and I feel the pain. And what a wonderful man. Husband Ernie?
Just want to say to the family how much we really loved John, how much he meant to us. And I just want to let you know that because of John, because I've known him, because he was a role model to me, I'm going to be more like him. I'm going to do that, and his life will live on. Thanks.
Cheers.
Cheers, John.
Johnny, I just want to say how much I'm going to miss you, and how the news was a shock and riveted this community. And I wanted to share with the family that actually the only way I could get through this was when I was crying, and my son texted me and said, "Mommy, don't cry anymore. Just remember what Peter Pan said. To die will be a wonderful adventure." And I just want to share with you that I hope you're on that great adventure, and that it's helped me deal with all of this, and that I'll join you in that wonderful adventure one day. I love you. I love you, Maria. I love you, Gina. I love you, Henry, and everybody else. Kisses, kisses. Love, love.
Well, my name is Jim Marquis, and in the summer of 2005, I was the new fire chief in Grass Valley. Everybody had been here a lot longer than me, except for the dreamer across the street from City Hall that was converting a space that had been not successful and really needed to be into yet another restaurant try. And so I walked through the door into that construction site. It's very much a dream in the making, and John met me at the door and proceeded to walk me around, and it took a lot of imagination to keep up with his description of what he was envisioning and what was going to be created there. But sure enough, he did it beyond what he described to me, and of course the beyond was not just the beautiful space, but the amazing person that he brought to that space. And I have a lot of memories. My first date with my wife, and he lives on, obviously, in his boys and all the love in this community. And it is such a wonderful town. I'm so glad that John saw it that way, and his lovely Maria, and the inspiration to watch that love blossom, and to know that in the end what makes the place wonderful are the wonders within it, and John sure was one of those wonders. I'm grateful for knowing him, and I'll miss him.
Okay, take two. Sorry about all the tears the first time around. I just want the boys, Kane Nation, to know how great it has been getting to know you all, and I'm excited to see you continue to come in and show us your faces and remind us of your dad, of course, and crack jokes and keep us going. To Gina and Henry and Maria and Moses, I apologize for not being there this first week. I was in shock, definitely. Had to go through some of my own emotions, but I love you guys, and I love that I can be there for the restaurant, and I'm willing to do whatever I can do to continue to show what I learned from John. Learned so much, so many hints and so many great life lessons and life advice to deal with people and friends, and he was just like a father to me, and I appreciate everything that I've learned at Kane's, everything that's going on with you guys, and just want y'all to know I'm there for you 100%. Just gonna keep on smiling for Big Daddy. We called him Big Daddy, Daddy-O, Teddy Bear. We loved him very much, and we'll never forget. Thank you.
Hi guys, it's Jake here. Our heartfelt condolences from our family to yours. If there's anything we can do for any of you, please just let us know. We are very sorry for your loss. Personally, I valued my friendship with John every minute of every day. I knew I could stop in there anytime, and Big Guy would definitely make me laugh. So we love you guys, and if there's anything you need, please just let us know.
Just want to say that I love you guys very much. It's a somber day, but also a good day. The Kane's name has to live on, and we just got to keep going forward. Love you guys, and we'll get through it, okay? Take care.
I'm thankful to Sam for introducing me to John and Maria. John taught me so much about how to live life, and you both taught me how you're supposed to love in life, so there is hope. And meeting the 4 Kane Nation was amazing yesterday. What a beautiful family you all are together.
And I miss him already.
Thank you.
But we love you guys.
Hi, and we just wanted to let you know that John will always be in our hearts. From the Tres Amigas, we miss you. And you will always, always be remembered. Thank you so much for giving us a place to be together and have fun. And we're going to miss you, John.
We're going to miss John. Tres Amigas say bye-bye. Love.
Vaya con Dios.
We've always used Kane's as our home. Our place for celebrations, our place for memories. This is Lynn and Patty, and we lost our friend Carrie, and we miss her, but we know that she's up there with John now and the rest of our babies, and we just really will always keep you in our heart, and thank you so much for everything that you have always done for us. We love you. Thank you, and thank you, Maria.
We love you, and thank you. Thank you a lot.
Hi, this is Kim and Eric, and John, you made a special place in that restaurant for all of us to just come in and enjoy. We've made new friends. You were like a big brother. You were so special to us. You made us so welcomed. We can't describe how much we are going to miss your presence in that place, but I know it is going to go on. There are a lot of people in there that love you, that are going to continue everything that you were looking to do. The expansion, I'm so glad you got to see it. The grand opening was awesome. You always have wonderful ideas. You put them into action, and it's just... It's so we're so saddened that you're just not going to be there. We're not going to see you there. And it's not that you're on vacation, and that's how I kind of look at it. You're not there at the moment. You're on vacation somewhere, enjoying having a good old time. I just wish, it didn't have to be so sudden. But you did live a grand life. And we didn't realize just how much your life extended to so many people. And when we look in our little group that gets together and comes there, Wednesday nights, Monday night football. We finally did your Thanksgiving this year. This was the first time we were told what a great dinner spread that was, and it was so worthwhile. We've always been out of town for it, and I'm so glad we got to do it this year, that we didn't miss it and have that opportunity, because as I go forward, every time there's some event that comes up, I'll be thinking, you would have been there. You would have been heading it up and doing such an awesome job. The carving, the roast, the corned beef, the whatever concoction for that Monday night football, and it's just around the corner. You are going to be so missed. We're going to be there, though. We're going to continue on. Everybody that knew you will continue on and make your memory not forgotten. To John.
To John. Love you, John.
Love you, John.
Okay, thank you everyone once again for being here. And refreshments will be served right now as you see the curtain being pulled back. And I'm sure we'll all be reminiscing some more about John. So once again, thank you everybody for coming. And the bar is open. And at 2 o'clock, it's open at Kane's.
If you protect your home, in a sense, you're protecting your neighbor's home. That defensible space spreads throughout that community.
Welcome to Take Responsibility, Create 100 Feet of Defensible Space. My name is Deborah Hine, and I work for the Bureau of Land Management. You have more power than you think when it comes to protecting your home and family from a wildfire. You can start by creating 100 feet of defensible space around your home. Fires are not new to California, but what is new is where we are building our homes. More homes than ever are being built in what we are calling the Wildland Urban Interface, or WUI. WUI is where homes meet the forest, or is any large area with lots of trees, plants, or grasses. Fire can move quickly through these areas to houses and buildings, which is why it's so important to create defensible space. This space not only provides a buffer between your home and a raging wildfire, but it also gives firefighters and emergency crews a better chance to save your house. These crews do all they can to stop wildfires and save buildings, but they have to be smart. They look for homes that are easier to protect, homes with 100 feet of defensible space. Okay, now that you know what it is and how important it is, let's go create some defensible space. And today we're going to talk about take responsibility and creating 100 feet around your home of defensible space. And with me today I have Joanne from the local Fire Safe Council. Joanne, can you tell me about your group?
Yes, our private partnership works with the federal agencies to help homeowners create defensible space around their homes.
Great, well thank you for joining us. I can't wait. So remember, this is very general information on how to create defensible space. If you need more specific information, please browse our website or contact your local fire department. We're here today in Northern California to talk about take responsibility and create 100 feet of defensible space. Thanks for joining me again, Joanne. If you were a homeowner in this area, what would you want to do looking around here to create defensible space?
Well, the first thing that we would do to create defensible space is to remove the dead and dying. This is going to be the most flammable material that can help a fire get started near your home. So here, this sort of leaf debris is very combustible. If we get firebrands that come in ahead of the fire front, this can start a fire next to your home.
Great, and I also know that these can throw embers maybe a half a mile to a mile ahead of the fire front and catch your house on fire when it hasn't even arrived yet.
Absolutely. It will land into your gutters of your house where you may have some leaf debris there, and it can start a fire that will then catch the structure.
Well, thanks, Joanne. That was a really good tip.
Well, there's a lot more to be done to create defensible space.
You're right. I think we should get to it. So we just talked about removing the dead and down field, let's talk about removing and thinning some of the trees.
Yes, as you can see here, we've got an area marked for treatment. This tree will not be cut because it's fairly large and very healthy, and so it's not as susceptible for wildfire. Whereas this clump of trees is very suppressed. We'll need to thin some of these out to change the way that wildfire will behave in this area.
So if the homeowners kind of keep their trees in clumps is better?
If you're going to have something for visual screening, definitely provide some defensible space around that clump. It can provide good wildlife habitat as well as some privacy from your neighbors, but you need to give it some defensible space.
Great, and I know on the fire side, if the trees are in clumps, if a fire was to get into there, it doesn't create quite the intensity. So that's great.
Absolutely. The amount of fuel loading that you have there, or the tons per acre, will dictate how intense the fire is. So the less fuel, the less intense fire.
Nice. Okay, let's go talk about our next issue. Okay, so Joanne, we talked about removing the dead and down fuel and removing and thinning of trees. Let's talk about the ladder fuel.
The ladder effect refers to the way that a fire can move through vegetation into the canopies of the trees. So it basically uses the vegetation as a step ladder. If the fire comes in through ember intrusion on the ground in this dead and dying fuel, the flame length of approximately 3 times the height can move it up through the trees and into the canopy, which is really problematic for firefighters to suppress.
So that's why we call it ladder fuel. We kind of want to remove one of those ladder steps.
Absolutely. If you cut out one of those steps, it'll keep the fire on the ground, and then it's much easier for suppression resources.
Great. Thank you. Let's get on to our next issue.
Okay.
So Joanne, we've actually covered a lot of stuff on defensible space today.
Yes, we've talked about removing the dead and dying, thinning of trees, and reducing the ladder effect. So let's look at the home ignition zone.
Okay.
We consider the home ignition zone the area immediately adjacent to your house. This landowner has done a great job in putting hardscape here. So we either consider very lean a safe environment, no flammable fuels, or very green. So you could have some irrigated landscaping in this area. It's important to remember after you've done all this hard work to create your defensible space to be sure to maintain it on an annual basis.
Okay, and what if you remove some of those fuels and you wanted to replace it with maybe some fire-resistant plants?
Good point. In California, we really want to be safe about what plants we put next to our home. Things like juniper are very unsuitable as landscaping around your home because they can serve like a gas can plant because of the high oil content in the vegetation. So it's a good idea to check with your local nursery or fire safe council or even UC Master Gardeners for a fire safe plant list.
Thank you, Joanne, for being with us today.
We sure appreciate you helping us educate the public.
Great. So if you need more information on defensible space, don't forget to visit your local fire safe council or your local fire department and come back and visit us at our website.
We're on air in 3, 2, 1.
Thanks for coming in, Ben. I'm Marceline Powers saying, good night, Nevada City.
Hang on, there's something wrong with the lights, you guys.
Heck, come on. What's going on in here? Why are the lights flickering?
We don't know. We're gonna go check it out. It's probably an earthquake.
All right, let's go.
All right, you check the computer, but I'm gonna check the mainframe. Cynthia, we've checked everything. We can't find out what's wrong.
It's obvious. The machines are attacking. Look. I am Machine Boy, and as you have destroyed the Earth, I will destroy you. I have captured your news anchor. Oh, and by the way, I have reawakened the dinosaurs, and they will take care of you.
Wait, I have an idea.
What are you doing? We have no choice. We have to call the army.
No, I know what I'm doing. I'm a software engineer. He's gonna hack it.
Well, if you're not going to, I am.
You better hurry, man. The dinosaurs are winning. Don't worry, this will work. I just need a little bit more time. Alright, take this to the main server database. This better work, or we're all dead. Take this headset. Let me know when it's uploaded. Alright, good luck. Goddamn power. Alright, it's uploaded. Alright guys, I have it uploaded. I'm heading back right now. There's been a few power surges, but we're good, so I'm taking off. No!
Ryan, are you there? It worked. Hello? Ryan? Are you there? It's working. Ryan? Hello? Ryan?
What have you done to my dinosaurs? Even if you have destroyed them, there is something more coming. What's that? I'm being hacked.
Is it working? Haha, it worked! Take that, machine boy. Robots 0, programmers 1. Yes!
I'm Marceline Powers signing out from NCTV News.
My name is Connor Breen, and I watch NCTV.
Hello, I'm Yvette Torres, and welcome to another edition of The Road to Recovery. Today we'll be talking about prevention and early intervention in behavioral health, promising practices. Joining us in our panel today are Kristen Brennan, Executive Director, Fairfax Partnership for Youth, Fairfax, Virginia. Dr. Richard Brown, Professor of Family Medicine, School of Medicine and Public Health, University of Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin. Gail Ritchie, Public Health Analyst, Center for Mental Health Services, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Rockville, Maryland. Dr. Pierluigi Mancini, CEO, Clinic for Education, Treatment, Prevention, and Addiction, Incorporated, Norcross, Georgia. Pierluigi, between 2002 and 2011, the total number of adolescents that receive prevention messages through the media went from 83.2% in 2002 and 75.1% on 2011. Are we reaching enough young people with prevention messages?
Well, I think the question is, how are we trying to reach the youth with prevention messages? I think that the development of technology today has given us an opportunity that we haven't quite caught up with. Traditionally, we have public service announcements, we have school activities, but today we have Facebook, we have texting, we have an ability to find new ways that we haven't quite exploded yet.
So the media we have to look at from a broader perspective, not just the broadcast media, but everything that the youth are using today.
That's correct. And I think that what we're doing is we also need to measure or find a way to measure how it is that we are reaching them through this new media.
Absolutely. And Kristen, you know, the same figures hold true for the school-based youth. It went from, in 2002, from 78.8% of all youth that were in school receiving, in adolescents to be specific, that were receiving messages through their school-based environment to 74.5% in 2011. What do you think happened?
I know that for our programs in Northern Virginia, we do survey our youth annually, starting in 6th grade and going through 12th grade. And so that has enabled us to learn a lot about exactly what's going on. We ask them about all kinds of behaviors and practices. So it gives us more information than we used to have.
And what information are you getting? We're
learning which trends are improving, which ones are not. Things such as suicidality, the number of youth who have considered or attempted suicide, bullying behaviors, the numbers of youth who have either reported that they have bullied or been bullied in the past year. And every year we are tweaking those surveys to get more information. They're listening to the partners as they say, you know, I think we need to ask kids about this so we can get better information. So we're getting more information, and that enables us to tailor our prevention practices a little more.
And Gail, in terms of the mental health issues with youth, particularly in light of the current incidents, what kind of messages should we be sending, and are the ones that we're sending now being effective?
Well, there are a variety of messages that we can send out. I'd like to use our grant program that is taking the good behavior game, which is an evidence-based practice, to 21 elementary schools across the country. What the literature tells us is that two major risk factors, early aggressive and disruptive behavior by elementary school boys in particular, lead them to be at risk for a variety of outcomes, both mental health problems as well as substance abuse problems. So by going early into a young child's life, we can begin to put them on the developmental track that works. And this seems to be working across the country.
And Richard, this all assumes that the best way is through messaging, yes, but once the youth is affected in some way, they really do have to be assessed. What does that mean, to be assessed?
Well, it's really important that we look at youth who are having problems in any sphere of life, because this is often such a web of risks that are interrelated. But it's also important that we recognize that everybody in this age group is at risk, so we really ought to be screening children on a regular basis. And this can happen. All children, absolutely. So this can happen in medical settings, but it can also happen in schools. It can also happen through other youth-serving organizations.
And what is the definition of screening? What should a parent be knowledgeable about in terms of screening? What does that entail?
Yeah, it's real important that parents be knowledgeable, because often parents hesitate a bit, because this does involve asking kids some pretty personal questions. And parents hesitate, is this going to be in the record? Might this haunt my child in the future? But in reality, it's real important that we be asking kids questions about tobacco use, substance use, various symptoms of mental health disorders, so that we can identify issues early and head big problems off.
And this is from the parents' perspective. Pierluigi, what happens, what should the parents and friends of those youth also be cognizant and on the lookout for?
Well, I think parents need to be in the lookout for any change of behavior, any change of friends, any change of attitudes. Friends need to be cognizant about those changes for several reasons. We are learning more and more. We used to think that the parent was the most important voice in that children's life. Today we're finding out that it's older siblings and friends that are the most important voices. So as parents, we also have to keep an eye on who are my children's friends, and as for those who are positive friendships, to make sure that we continue to support those positive friendships. But we do need to look at changing behavior, change of clothing, change of attitudes, and also some isolation and some of the other negative type of behaviors that we're pretty much learning that it leads to some unhealthy symptoms.
And Gail, you mentioned the whole notion of the youth that are affected by some mental health problems that also go to addiction. For youth 12 to 17 who experienced depression in the past year, and this is 2011 data, they were 2 times as likely to take the first drink or use drugs than other youth in that cohort. Talk to me a little bit about that.
This reminds me, we can approach it 2 ways. One way is to look at the issue of early intervention, or intervening early in the course of the illness. So you want to try to find people that are beginning to experience depression at the point of being a diagnosis.
And what would a youth act like if they were beginning to experience depression?
Well, oftentimes they withdraw. Their behavior is not like it was before. They're less social. They might report that they can't sleep, or they sleep too much. They have less of an appetite or more of an appetite. These are important things to look for.
And sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes kids will actually be depressed, but actually more agitated and acting out more.
That's right. I'd like to also add a point about prevention here. Dr. Greg Clark from Kaiser Permanente a number of years ago did a wonderful study. He knew that mothers within the health organization who got depressed put their kids at risk. So he then developed and studied, and we have the good randomized control trial that lead us in this, that he developed an evidence-based practice for youth whose parents were depressed, who are not yet depressed yet. And so it's a preventive intervention, it's a cognitive behavioral format, and I think it's very encouraging.
And Kristen, how does the school system then, you can certainly do your surveys, but what do you do when you do begin to see a pattern of behavior within a student, and how do you capture that, and how do you approach that student?
Well, it's of the utmost importance that the school personnel are working together. we have school social workers, counselors, and psychologists, and in some cases we also have a substance abuse support person from our CSB, the Community Services Board, and they are working together and communicating on the youth who've come to their attention and then strategizing on how they can best support that youth. Now, of course, the school systems they're limited in what they can offer in treatment. So where programs like ours as a nonprofit agency come in is to make families and the community aware of what resources are there for them so that they can seek effective treatment for youth. And going back to something Yael was saying earlier, you were talking about how early aggressive behavior is a key thing to be aware of for young children, and we're really at our organization trying to bring attention to the fact that we want to start paying attention at that point and bringing effective treatment and therapies to youth at that point rather than waiting until later when there's a crisis that occurs.
You know, the other issue that you mentioned, that you try to get them treatment. Well, we know for a fact that only about, I would say, 10.8% of the people who really need treatment, of the 20.6 million that are affected, and this is the entire population 12 and older, that have a problem. So how do you begin to weed out and with those families to try and get them help?
Mm-hmm. There's actually a program, a national campaign called the 1 in 5 campaign, which states that 1 in 5 youth have an issue, and of those 5, 1 of them gets treatment. That's sort of the rule of thumb that we go by. And so there are a lot of different things that we try to do in our community because we're aware that nationwide it's a problem with resources. Providing access to effective treatment is a huge problem across the country.
So when we come back, I want to continue with that train of thought because I think that will be very helpful for our audience. We'll be right back.
We want everybody in the community to understand signs and symptoms of mental illness and of addiction, so that, or even just an emerging problem, so that individuals can know when either themselves, their family members, or a neighbor or friend is having difficulties and they may need to reach out for help. So increasingly we're trying to help people understand what addiction is about, what mental illness is about, what mental health conditions are about, and what substance abuse is about, so that we can identify these signs and symptoms sooner, and so that neighbors can help neighbors in reaching out and getting the help that they need.
What SAMHSA is doing with regard to facilitating the integration of the assessment of mental and behavioral health problems in the primary care settings, our major initiative is the Screening, Brief Intervention, Referral to Treatment Initiative, which lodges the screening in the primary care setting. So as part of the primary care team, what the mental health counselor or the substance abuse counselor would be doing is asking questions about alcohol and drugs, and also dealing with mental health issues.
Recovery benefits everyone. Substance use and mental disorders can be treated. It all starts on day one. Join the Voices for Recovery. For information and treatment referral for you or someone you love, call 1-800-662-HELP. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
So, Kristen, do you want to continue telling us exactly how you help those parents try and seek help?
Yeah, one of the things that we've been doing over about the last year is a community education program. I had the opportunity to go and speak to all of the about 500 counselors in our public school system. We have one of the largest public school systems in the country, and give them information on helping youth not only to access the services that are available, but some information about self-care. So we do a lot of community education around the importance of sleep and nutrition and exercise and things like that, so that youth who don't have access or who aren't ready to access treatment have some strategies that they can pursue on their own. But I've also done that program for parent groups, for PTAs, and we're actually going to be having a TV show coming up in the next couple of months on our local government channel, where we'll be talking about a lot of those kinds of topics also. We do advocacy around the community. We work with our local government and the school system because, like I said, we're not a non-for-profit, so we are not linked directly to the government or the school system. We're kind of working in between with the community-based organizations.
And Gail, does that parallel some of techniques and approaches that you do in some of your programs?
Yes, it reminded me of the concept we use in a couple of our programs, which is, and for prevention in particular, we know that mental health professionals, for example, most of prevention will not be done by the mental health community, but it will be done by people in the social settings where children are. So in the program in which we're moving the good behavior game to elementary schools is the prime example of how teachers are preventionists. And I think that's also another way to look at the problem of early intervention, trying to find kids who are just becoming ill with mental health or substance abuse problems. We know that if we can train those that are in the social sphere where children are to know more about these issues, then that's a way to get them to treatment.
You know, I really wanted to mention when we had our prevention program, we started it in the middle school, and we moved it down to the elementary school. But the important component for us, because we started mental health promotion at the same time that we did substance abuse prevention, and our key component was the parents. We needed to have a very strong parental component because we work with immigrant parents. We work with Latino parents, and there was a great disconnect from what the children were learning and doing to what the parents thought they needed to be learning and doing. And what we found out is the children were our partners in helping educate the parents about mental health promotion and substance abuse prevention.
But you also work with the parents.
Correct.
Yeah, you train the parents because you had a very, very unique situation there for a while where you had a lot of suicides in your community.
Correct. And besides being the silent epidemic, in Latino families, it became a very difficult topic. So we did engage the parents, and today actually our suicide prevention program has grown where we're now also training Latino youth to be suicide peer mentors at the schools. And that program is also beginning to develop and give us some excellent results.
Richard, speaking about screening, I know that you're working with physicians at the University of Wisconsin and medical school, and what does the program entail in terms of getting them to understand what they need to do in their everyday practice?
Yeah, and actually we're working with not just physicians but clinical settings throughout the entire state of Wisconsin. And one lesson that we learned early on is that the current staff, the physicians, the nurses, they just don't have time to do yet one more thing. So we've actually found that we can make the most progress if we help them expand their healthcare teams, and everybody has a role. So the receptionist will ask the teen to fill out a questionnaire when they arrive at the clinic. The medical assistant who checks vital signs will notice if there's a risky response or not. And then for those who have risky responses, there's a full-time, well-trained, well-supported, dedicated health educator who is trained in motivational interviewing and other techniques so they can really connect with that teen and explore with them what are the pros and cons of their behaviors. Are they fearful of any risks? Are they already starting to have some issues in their lives that they wish would change? And those are the kind of techniques that certainly physicians and nurses could learn. But again, they just don't have that amount of time to spend with the kids. If we can add somebody to the healthcare team who's really well trained and focused on delivering just this behavior, we can do much better.
But under the model of screening and brief intervention, is this sort of, does it follow that model? Because under that model, people are taught almost to do what you're saying, but there are many settings who may not be able to add on additional staff to be able to do this, and they train. I know that SAMHSA, CSAT has trained quite a number of people in being able to adjust their approach in order to provide that brief intervention.
Yeah, actually SAMHSA has supported both models. One model where the current staff, often the physician, actually delivers the service. Another model where we expand the healthcare team. And what we find is when we can expand the healthcare team, we more consistently deliver more evidence-based services of longer duration to kids. But for settings where the healthcare team cannot be expanded, then we certainly want to take advantage of the opportunity to train physicians and nurses. And especially in rural areas where maybe if they expanded the team, there wouldn't be enough people to serve. They even have to be more flexible, and maybe people are serving multiple roles in the process.
And Gail, what are some of the screening tools, and Pierluigi, what are some of the screening tools that parents need to be aware of for screening for mental health issues?
Well, there are some basic tools, I think, that the primary care physician uses, and I think maybe you can help me on this question. Rich, can you help me on that?
Sure. And yeah, I don't know if I would envision parents using these tools, but certainly
being aware of them.
Yeah, it certainly helps to be aware and understand that this is a good thing for their kids to get. But the tools that we use in practice are maybe an initial question or two, and we don't actually want to start with alcohol and drugs because that's a little jarring for kids. They're on their toes when they're asked initially about that. So maybe we'll start with something a little easier like diet or exercise or sleep, and then we'll ask about tobacco, and then we'll get into alcohol and drugs. Maybe we'll preface the questions on their drinking and drug use with questions about whether they know any friends who are drinking or using. And then a very helpful questionnaire to use for alcohol and drugs is called the CRAFT, C-R-A-F-F-T, and each of those letters stands for a question. And then for depression, the PHQ-2 can be a good initial screener, and the PHQ-9 is more of a more complete yet still brief assessment instrument. And it's very easy just to ask the questions, add up the scores, and give an indication what level of risk or problem someone might have. We can never use these tools to make a firm diagnosis, but at least they're a good indication. And actually, if a parent is concerned, they can find these tools online, and if they have a good trusting relationship with their young one, maybe they can ask. But if they're not sure if they're the best person, chances are they're not, and maybe good to let somebody in a clinical setting handle it.
And in our agency, we have a hybrid agency where we have a prevention branch and a direct clinical services branch. In both branches, we use the GAIN, and for prevention, we started adapting the GAIN short screener. And this gives us a real quick picture. Is this youth heading towards a path that we can help them avoid? For the treatment, we have a more thorough GAIN that gives us a lot of information about the youth, about all types of behaviors that we can use to help diagnose and to help develop a treatment plan for that youth.
What are some of the questions that the short GAIN has, for example?
Well, the short GAIN will ask you about, have you ever used alcohol? How many times in the past 30 days? Have you ever used tobacco? How have you handled a certain episode where you felt angry? So it starts dealing with managing emotions, which is one of the key areas that we work in our prevention program. And then it can go further. It can be modified, but it can go further into sexual behavior, into other emotions, and so on.
Yes.
I'd like to add, give a story. I think thinking about this issue as a public health problem might shed some light on it. Dr. Robert McFarland from Maine Medical School did a very interesting study that's very enlightening. He wanted to try to reach late teens, early youth, early adults who are at risk for a psychotic break. And so what he did is his catchment area was Portland, Maine, and he trained counselors in high school, teachers, I think it might have been parents, I'm not quite sure, but the idea is, I'm sure it was actually, that if these folks began to know what are some of the signs, where most people would say, oh, they're going to grow out of it, he would say, please send me your person if they're showing these signs. And it turned out to be a wonderful way of actually lowering the rates of psychotic behavior on the part of the population as a whole in that area.
And when we come back, I do want to get to not only continue to learn more of what you're doing, Gail, but also deal with the issues of the peer counselors that I want to go back to. We'll be right back.
For more information on National Recovery Month, to find out how to get involved, or to locate an event near you, visit the Recovery Month website at recoverymonth.gov.
I felt broken. I needed help for my addiction and depression, and help was there. I found support as I rebuilt my life, piece by piece. With the help of my family and recovery support community, I'm rebuilding my life. And through recovery, I am whole again.
Join the Voices for Recovery. It's worth it. For information on mental and substance use disorders, including prevention and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Yale has a long history of pioneering research in substance abuse, and we've been able to take that even further with SBRT research.
SBRT, it's a funny sounding acronym, but it stands for Screening, Brief Intervention, and Referral to Treatment. Screening is very important because many folks out there who have substance issues never get any kind of intervention.
SBRT, by definition, is identifying those patients along the entire spectrum of use, from just risky use or hazardous use to those that are on the severe end of the spectrum and are dependent. SBRT will identify those patients, offer an intervention either to reduce the use or to refer to a specialty treatment program.
The heart of SBRT is the BI in the SBIRT. Our version of the brief intervention is something called the brief negotiation interview. The BNI is comprised of 4 steps. It's build rapport, give feedback, enhance motivation, and negotiate a plan for change.
I was actually surprised when I came in. I came actually for a minor heart attack. So when I came in, I kind of surprised when they came in and they were talking to me about it. You know, it was the most thing about the drug problem is trying to admit it to somebody. You know what I mean?
There's no finger wagging. There's not a lot of facts and figures about what could happen to you, and it's not scaring you about your issues. It's a simple communication style that asks the patient to tell the practitioner the downsides of their problematic use, what they think is a problem with it. And not only that, but asking them to imagine what things could be better in their lives were they to cut down or to stop altogether, or to even go on to treatment.
Utilizing SBRT in clinical practice and training physicians to utilize SBRT in clinical practice allows us to identify patients who might not otherwise be ready to come forth to their doctors and tell them about it, and also be able to have a skill to talk to patients about how to reduce their alcohol or substance use or get them to more specialized treatment.
I ended up talking to some people in here that direct me into the right direction, like to programs, outpatient programs that were able to help me out.
Because the SBRT program is a very specific and practical skill set, we have a structured training program that helps residents, medical practitioners, nurses, PAs, what have you, learn it so that they are able to bring it from the classroom into the ED.
We've also created the virtual coach, and the virtual coach is the ability to do some of that training online.
The user of the program clicks through and picks what steps of the BNI to do with this patient. And depending on the level of correctness of their choices, the patient responds in various ways.
SBRT gives the practitioner a needed skill in order to screen and intervene. It's a skill like any other skill that they learn in medical school, and it has the potential to improve the health of the public.
I probably wouldn't even be here if it would take me a longer time. The earlier the better. You know, I was able to catch it in the stage that, you know, I'm not a long-time user, but I am a user. So it was able to help me balance myself out and get myself into the help that I needed.
I see many patients at the end stage of their disease, not only from their alcohol and substance use, long-standing, but also from the co-occurring illnesses which can result as from substance use. And so it's become vital to me, not only as a clinician but also as an educator, to really promote prevention, to allow us to identify patients before they really have reached these end-stage processes in their disease. And so bringing these prevention techniques and early identification techniques to the residents, I feel, will only improve the health care of patients long term.
So, Kristen, we had mentioned before the whole issue of peer-to-peer interventions. Can you talk to us a little bit, and how does that work?
There are a variety of ways that we can utilize the information, the expertise of peers to help each other. There's peer mentoring, there's peer mediation. There are a variety of different things that we can do. With peer mediation, we work with youth to help each other resolve conflict, which is a tremendously useful thing in this day and age because there are so many opportunities for youth to be in conflict, not just in person now, but digitally. We want to give them as many ways to resolve those conflicts as possible.
What kind of things go on digitally? Do they intimidate each other?
We are only just beginning to even get a handle on everything. It's exploding so quickly. The common ways that they interact in a negative way, we'll say, that everyone kind of knows about are things like Facebook and Twitter and texting and things like that. But there are a variety of other platforms online where youth are interacting that adults are only just becoming really aware of.
Such as?
Even things like Instagram. You know, they can even have negative interactions with Instagram. So the key thing for parents to know with all of that, well, really there are two main things I would tell parents. One is to document things. The thing that teens don't often realize with digital harassment or bullying is that a lot of it can be documented. You can screen capture a mean text or a harassing text. You can screen capture things that happen on Facebook. The other thing that I would advise parents to work with their teens on is to limit how they're interacting on social media. Use their privacy settings on Facebook. Make sure that only the people that should see something are seeing it. A lot of teens are still making their profiles completely public on Facebook so that any adult can go on and see them, see where they're posting, see what their whereabouts are. It's a huge safety issue. So the first thing as parents are allowing their kids to become active on the internet that they should do is first teach them about the safety issues and make sure that they're using privacy settings appropriately.
So if a parent buys a young person for safety reasons an electronic device, I mean, they should really be monitoring this.
Absolutely.
I mean, I would call it age-appropriate monitoring,
Yes.
which means like the younger, the more vigilant that they have to be.
Absolutely. But I really think that as a society, we tend to taper off our vigilance a little too early. We see great leaps in issues around the middle school age, and it's partly because of the natural changes that youth undergo in middle school, but it's also because parents tend to back off a little bit where in situations where maybe they shouldn't.
And Pierluigi, that is where your peer mentoring and your peer support programs come in, correct? Because they can actually take a look at that and the youth are trained to detect, correct?
Correct. And we actually have 3 different levels of peer mentoring. We have in our prevention program, we have a specific suicide prevention training with sources of strength where we are training middle and high school students to become suicide prevention peer mentors in their schools and to be known to other students in case those students have a question about suicide. They prefer to go to someone their own age or communicate in a way that they are more familiar. Then we have our prevention peer mentors, and these are youth that have gone through our traditional after-school prevention programs like Too Good for Drugs and Violence or our own bilingual curriculum that SAMHSA named as an exemplary program. And those youth are meeting at least on a monthly basis, and they're developing public service announcements, media campaigns, texting campaigns to reach other Latino youth and to help them avoid alcohol, drugs, gangs, and those things. And then our treatment peer mentors is our latest program. We have a clubhouse model where we have substance abuse treatment for adolescents, and we provide support services after school, tutoring, life skills, and so on. We help kids finish school, get out of gangs, stop using drugs, and graduates of that program, we are hiring paid positions, hiring as peer mentors so they can help the new members coming in.
So they're peer recovery.
Correct.
Young people. Well, that's excellent. That's excellent. Does that mirror anything we're doing in the mental health side,
Well, I
Gail?
couldn't help but, first of all, applaud you for the work you're doing, and also to think about our Garrett Lee Smith Youth Suicide Prevention Program that has a variety of facets. And one program, sub-program, is we work with college campuses. And we're doing the same thing, for example, in training resident advisors in the dorm about signs of suicide.
And that's who funds
Yes.
us, is the Garrett Lee Smith.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Thank you.
Yes, you're very welcome. This is a wonderful way to meet you. We also work with states and tribal communities, and it's the same idea of helping people within the social sphere where youth reside to know the signs of suicide, and then try to refer them for help. You're a wonderful example.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Richard, let's talk about a little bit about integrated care. Does part of the training that you give, does it provide the whole notion of the continuity of care throughout the life cycle of an individual who may come into that system and a follow-up?
Yeah, so our health educators in primary care settings, they're trained to take care of everyone from ages 10 and up with these behavioral issues. And not only are they focusing on alcohol, drugs, and mental health, but they're also focusing on tobacco, diet, exercise, and weight issues, so that we avoid them taking on some of the stigma that unfortunately the mental health treatment system, the alcohol and drug treatment system takes on. In one of our clinics, when we got started, we really just focused on alcohol and drugs, and the health educator at that clinic got to be known as the alcohol lady. And we realized, no, this is going the wrong way. So when we expand and cover a wider scope of behavioral risks throughout the age spectrum, then these health educators get to be known as general health resources, and then the patient doesn't have to feel awkward when they walk into the room and did anybody see me? But I tell you, it's much easier to walk into the room of a health educator in your family doctor's office or your pediatrician's office than it is to go maybe across town and run the risk of being seen walking into a treatment program.
Because of the discriminatory fears of discrimination.
And the stigma, who's going to know, and as you were saying, all it takes is one Twitter message and everybody at school knows. The more we can bring these services into places where teens already feel comfortable, whether it's school or their doctor's office where they go for a sore throat or a sprained ankle, I think the more participation we'll have.
And also we need to also be keenly aware that because of the new healthcare reform and what it's going to offer in terms of that whole integrated care, correct?
Yeah, it's very exciting that part of healthcare reform that many people don't know about is a strengthening of some of the enforcement of previous mental health parity bills. So we're going to see many more people now have access to services. We also see strengthening of requirements for reimbursement for some of these screening and intervention services that in the past were largely unreimbursed, and we had to just depend on the altruism of the healthcare practitioners to implement these services.
Which, Pierluigi, will certainly help you out, correct? And what should nonprofits be looking at in terms of this new opportunity?
Well, one of the things that we are currently looking at is how are we going to partner to bring a primary health clinic to our agency that already sees over 600 families per week for behavioral health services. All of these families need primary care services. So having them all under one roof will not only guarantee continuity of those services, but it will guarantee a bigger prevention of physical health. For example, obesity, smoking, diabetes, all of those illnesses, along with mental health and substance abuse prevention and promotion, belong in the same roof, under the same roof.
Well, I think that certainly that will go a long ways, not only in looking at that sort of what we call recovery-oriented system of care for that community, correct?
Correct.
And are you going to partner with some of with a hospital, or are you partnering with a healthcare provider?
We have two different options. One of them is to partner with someone, so we're currently speaking with some partners, a physician, a pediatrician, or we can do it ourselves and just have someone.
You want to bring it in-house, so that's another option for programs.
Again, our communities are recently arrived immigrant communities, and once we have their trust, they will continue to come back. We have their trust. So for me to install a primary health clinic right where we are located will guarantee the flow of patients.
Absolutely. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk more about additional efforts. We'll be right back.
Every day, I seek a positive direction for my life.
Through my accomplishments.
And now, with help.
And support from my family and others, I own.
I own my recovery from addiction and depression.
Join the Voices for Recovery. It's worth it. For information on mental and substance use disorders, including prevention and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Westfield High School is located on the western part of the county by the Dulles Airport area in Chantilly, Virginia. We have approximately 2,750 students here. We do have a student services department here at Westfield. It comprises of the school counselors. We have a school psychologist and school social worker. I kind of look at the counselors as always being the first line of defense.
They want to make sure that kids in the school succeed, and they want to make sure you do your best at all things, even if they have to push you a little bit.
What we try to do is be proactive rather than reactionary. We sit down and talk every year about our programs and what we do here to try to see how can we sort of more get ahead of the issues rather than just reacting to them.
Some common issues that students face is peer pressure, especially with drugs and alcohol and all those things. And I think for mental health, it's more of a we don't talk about it mentality. It's hard to kind of to be open about it because you don't want to alienate yourself.
The earlier you catch it, in most cases, the more treatable it is. So you're not just preventing, more of the suffering if you catch it early, but you're actually going to have better success with treatment.
So they need to catch these warning signs early and get them help and see what's okay, if they're going to be okay in the long run.
The program that we used for our depression awareness program this year was the SOS, or Signs of Suicide program, that's written for high school age students. It really focused on the students and what they can do.
There's a low smirk factor on it. High school kids are prone to smirk at things, but this one was really well done. They played out scenarios, and there was information about depression, information about suicide. So it was partly to introduce our screening tool, but also it was an education program.
And it showed new things because it never talked about the depression stages and how to catch depression and whether you need help. So it showed me new ways of how to get help and, the ways you can and how to help other people.
After the video, we took a survey, and that survey was completely private. You did it individually, and then they took it and they gave it to the counselors.
The counselors all got together and went around to all the different classrooms and collected the materials and then took them down to a central location where there was a bunch of counselors, a director of student services, a psychologist, social workers, and people were sorting them based on answering questions, whether we needed to see them that day, that week, that month.
We stirred up a lot of kids that probably wouldn't have come up on our radar before, and some had really significant issues, some fairly scary scenarios.
a lot of kids got help. We gave a lot of resources out. A lot of students got to, get it off their chest, whether it's true depression or just screaming for help. At least they got to be heard and they got to talk about it.
They gave us this paper with all the numbers and hotlines you could call. They show you what website you can go to, the people you can talk to, and in school we have a counselor, and all the teachers are pretty friendly, and it tells me more about how to get help for my friends or myself.
It was definitely a big help because it showed me that I could go to my counselor and talk to them if I needed to, or my parents, or any adult that I really, really trust.
3 months later, I had a student come to me in the cafeteria concerned about a friend and saying that they had remembered some of the concepts that were from that day and knew that they had to go talk to a trusted adult. Our hope in the future with expanding our program is to try to infuse it throughout the school year, so then the students will know that it's a topic that they can talk about and be comfortable to talk about with a trusted adult. And that's what our hope is to do in the future with programming.
Richard, you certainly work at a university that's keenly engaged in helping to train individuals to do prevention, early intervention, so on and so forth for behavioral health issues. What about those other physicians that are still providing services and have not put on the cap of integrated services? What would you say to them, and where could they go for making sure that they know how to best treat their patients?
Yeah. Well, there's lots of educational opportunities, and it's interesting, there's actually studies that show that most physicians choose to be further educated on topics that they're already familiar with to deepen their understanding and their specialty expertise, whereas this field calls on people to kind of come out of their usual areas of expertise and get involved with something new. So there's lots of opportunities to come learn, but so often it's before that, have people decided that this is a gap in their practice? Have they decided, wow, especially for kids, these behavioral issues are the #1 health threats for them? So maybe rather than learning a little bit more on cholesterol issues or infectious disease, let's figure out what we can do in our practice to address these #1 risks that kids have. A lot of people don't really conceptualize addiction this way, for example, but addiction is basically a pediatric illness. It starts when kids are in their teens and blossoms more when they're adults, and is responsible for tremendous loss of life, tremendous loss of years of life. And I just hope we can sway more healthcare professionals in general to pay attention to the behavioral realm. It's responsible for 40% of deaths in our country, and clearly it's not getting 40% of attention in training.
And not to mention the cost to society for all of the addiction problems.
Absolutely.
Pierluigi, do you get an opportunity to train some of the physicians that are not within your clinic or working within your clinic? Do you talk to the medical society or?
Well, one of the areas that we've been lucky enough to be able to address is the culture and language barriers that occurs when we're addressing substance abuse and mental health issues. And yes, we have had the opportunity to speak with the family physicians and other pediatricians and general physicians in Georgia as to how do you address this in general, but also how do you address this for the growing immigrant communities that every state is facing, including Georgia. We also have the opportunity to talk not only physicians and pediatricians, but other professionals in other areas that are present when we're dealing with our population. That includes juvenile justice, the school system, other professionals that will have interaction with youth that may not be aware as to what is needed. So we have had Georgia conferences, and we're lucky that we have the Georgia School of Addiction Studies every year in Georgia, where we're able to attract a lot of professionals, counselors and preventionists to the conference to be able to educate them.
I did want to bring up ASAM because they can always go to ASAM. ASAM, the American Society for Addiction Medicine has tremendous number of treatment trainings, correct? That
Yeah, they
don't necessarily have to specialize, but they can become more aware.
Yeah, they offer a one-week course, which can move people from novices to real experts. Another way to get excellent training is to seek out a course on motivational interviewing. Motivational interviewing is a very empathic, respectful, collaborative approach where rather than sort of the old-style physician says, hey, you better not do that, you could die, this and so forth. That rarely changes behaviors, especially in teens who resist that kind of authority. But with motivational interviewing, we help kids take stock. Gee, first of all, we acknowledge there might be some things you like about this, but gee, are there any fears that you have? Have there been any downsides? And then we get kids to think about, well, what's important in their lives and how does their drinking or drug use really fit in? And many kids will take stock and, maybe I could have just as much fun if I drank a little less or avoided using that drug or stayed away from those kids who engage in riskier behaviors. The key is helping kids decide for themselves that they want to make a change rather than telling them, and that's what motivational interviewing does. So it's a wonderful thing for physicians to get trained in.
Excellent. And speaking of motivational interviewing, in your program, Kristen, how do you get youth engaged in and how do you keep them motivated?
Right. Well, one of my favorite things that we've come up with in the last couple of years is our teen handbook. We became aware through all of the work that we do in the community that one of the biggest challenges that families face and that teens face is figuring out, if there is a problem, what do I do next? Like, how do I even access the kinds of help that I need? And so we developed this teen handbook that walks them through step by step so that first they can find out, okay, well, am I even dealing with something that's unusual, or is this sort of just what teens typically go through? So there's basically an introduction to all kinds of issues that teens face, from eating disorders to Asperger's-like behaviors, all the things that they may have never really heard the actual terms for, or they don't really know if it's typical or they're different. And then from there we say, okay, well, if you've identified that you maybe need some help or you want to talk to somebody, here are the people in your community you can talk to. And then if you really need a formal assessment, and we're obviously, this is for parents more that we're gearing it toward, if you need a formal assessment, here's how that process works, and here's what you can expect. Here's how to navigate your insurance through this process. Here are some typical obstacles. I work with a lot of school personnel and parents on how on earth do I get through the insurance process. It's almost prohibitive for a lot of families. It's just so much. They're working, they have so much on their plate already, and then to be calling 20, 40 potential therapists or psychiatrists and then figuring out how to pay for it, it's just too much for a lot of families.
It's quite daunting.
Yeah, so we put it all together in this one handbook, and then we also go out and do presentations based on that handbook to give people that information.
When we talk about youth, how do we know and how do we assess if and when they're ready to really take on a peer role? Because I think that's very important. Not all youth are going to be ready.
I think that for us in the prevention side, the way we recruit is either through referrals from some teachers that said, this would be a good candidate, but also how they respond, how the youth responds to the offer, how the youth contributes to what it is that it needs to be done. We give them empowerment so they can develop their style. So there is a job description, if you will, but they can develop their style, and depending on the energy that goes into that and how they respond to it, then they become candidates. For the treatment peers, the ones that have completed the program, of course we look at how they did in the program, but also we wait for them to take the first step. We let them know there's candidates, there's these positions that are open, but I think that youth being empowered,
they self-identify.
Exactly, they see themselves in that position, and to us that's one of the most valuable tools.
So it depicts leadership.
That's right.
And desire. Gail.
I was just thinking the Center for Mental Health Services has been a national leader in developing what's called Youth Move. to really help youth become national leaders, to help others, take away the stigma of asking for help or being in treatment. And we're very proud of that. We think that's a growing trend. And we can all work together on that,
That's
I think, together.
That's a great program.
Yes.
I'm going to ask the entire panel now, if you were looking at a crystal ball, what would be your one area where you think that we need to improve, given everything that society is facing and given the challenges, the fiscal challenges that we have? Where should we be going in the future? Kristen, I'm going to start with you.
I really think we have to look at prevention and treatment as the investments that they are. I think too often we wait until there's a national crisis and then we spring to action. And I think it's more important that we look at working with kids at the very earliest stages of showing that there's a problem, whether it's potential substance abuse or aggression or anxiety, which is a huge, huge problem, and that we intervene as soon as possible and that we don't wait until a crisis happens.
Richard.
Well, I'll focus on general health care, and I think where things really need to go, and they're already moving in that direction, is a much greater emphasis on these behavioral health determinants. It's, we spend so much time doing physical exams and lab tests and working with patients around cholesterol, blood pressure, and all these numbers, but actually things like tobacco use and alcohol use are actually much stronger determinants of health and premature mortality. And so either we need physicians to be able to shift in that direction, and in many settings we need to expand the health care team so there's folks who really can dwell on those issues. To make that happen, of course, there needs to be appropriate financing of services. We can't ask clinics to just take this on out of their own generosity. They can't lose money doing this. So right now the next biggest thing that has to happen is Medicare, which is already willing to reimburse these services when they're provided by physicians, needs also to be able to reimburse them when they're provided by health educators and other paraprofessionals who are working under the supervision of physicians, and they can take much more time. They can become much more skilled at motivational interviewing over time. So we really can have the same kind of expertise in behavioral health issues in general health care settings as we have on cholesterol, blood pressure, diabetes, etc.
Very good. Pierluigi.
Thank you. I think I would begin by saying we need to continue to think outside the box. We need to get tech savvy. We need to meet the youth at their level. We need to provide support services. We have youth that get into these situations many times because they don't have that kind of support at home or in their communities. The examples I've given for Georgia is we have been blessed with a lot of support from our Department of Behavioral Health, where they are helping us with these clubhouse models to be able to provide those support services and develop these peer models. We also need to stop confusing children, and we need to develop the tools for adults and other peers to correct the misinformation.
Gail.
Well, if I had a crystal ball but also had some power and money with that thought, I think a couple of things. I would hope that our country would move towards looking at families as a whole. That in a family, a mother could be depressed, for example. So if you treat her depression, you're actually helping her as a mother do her motherly roles. Oftentimes when people are treated for mental health problems as adults, they're never asked, are you a parent? And we have some preventive evidence-based practices to help people become positive in their parenting, which can affect the outcome of their children. I guess I would also say that we need to think of kids developmentally, and we know that mental health and substance abuse problems come on at different developmental stages. And the literature tells us that we have about a 2 to 4 year window between early kind of weak signs, there's something wrong, to the full diagnostic criteria being met. And so we need to intervene in that time. So I think those are the two messages I suggest.
I want to encourage our audience to go to our Recovery Month website at recoverymonth.gov. And I want to thank the panel for such a great show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you,
Our pleasure.
For a copy of this program or other programs in the Road to Recovery series, call SAMHSA at 1-800-662-HELP or order online at recoverymonth.gov and click on the Video Radio Web tab. Every September, National Recovery Month provides an opportunity for communities like yours to raise awareness of substance use and mental health problems, to highlight the effectiveness of treatment, and that people can and do recover. In order to help you plan events and activities in commemoration of this year's Recovery Month observance, the free online Recovery Month Kit offers ideas, materials, and tools for planning, organizing, and realizing an event or outreach campaign that matches your goals and resources. To obtain an electronic copy of this year's Recovery Month Kit and gain access to other free publications and materials related to recovery issues, visit the Recovery Month website at www.recoverymonth.gov or call 1-800-662-HELP.
How do you make a TV show?
I've never seen that on TV before.
Where can I show my movie?
Isn't that, what's her name?
I could do that.
That would be a great show. This is my town. I was there. Watch this.
Wow, what is this?
How'd he get on TV?
My neighbors should know.
We've got to get the word out.
So that's what that construction is about.
I'm glad I know that now. What channel is this?
How can I reach my community?
Cool. When's that happening?
I work with that girl.
I know that guy.
Where can I show my movie?
I'd like to make TV.
Next hour, you'll be experiencing Live in Studio A, produced by KDVS 93.3 FM in Davis, California. Since 1987, Live in Studio A has featured a different band every week from California all over the world, representing every style of music. The original Studio A was located inside KDVS in the basement of